Hi, this is Toast. I'd like to give a shout out to our recent anonymous coffee supporter. You know who you are, so thank you very much for your help. With the money from coffee, we're hoping to eventually use a professional sound studio that will provide all the space and equipment we need. So thank you very much for your help. And now it is Eli's turn.
Hi, Elijah here. Before we get started, I'd like to shout out our top tier patrons, Nikki, Sean, Mies, and Alan. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like a shout out and access to our bonus content, you can find us on patreon.com/dandiesindanger. For a one-time shout out, you can also support us on ko-fi.com/dandiesindanger. As always, the best way you can help us grow is to tell your friends, subscribe, leave a review, or leave a positive rating. Thank you all so much for listening. And now, on with the show.
Previously on Dandies in Danger.
Whenever you're looking at Emily, you can tell that in the sclera of her eye, there's kind of a green tinge to it. Everyone, this is my brother-in-law, Francis Blythe, Emily's father. There is a candle with a glass circular plate mounted to the front of the wheelchair, and there are words inlaid into the glass. A Perry. It allows him to travel through the center of this stairwell, much like an elevator. Tabitha. Her eyes were shot through with green, as are Emily's.
What can you tell us about what Lord Bush gives you?
With her mind, she opens up the drawer of her bedside. There is an empty vial that's got a little cork stopper on it. It's got sort of a metallic smell to it.
Is this blood?
I have to go. I'm meant to be meeting Mr. Keen. I want to stick my tongue in the vial.
You are healed.
Zachary looks back to Mr. Blythe. I was told that your affliction came about after an incident in the attic.
Felt like I was being torn away from my body, and yet at the same time I couldn't leave. I was stuck in between. I felt it when that happened.
Do you know what happens at midnight?
The house feels very strange, and last week when there were other people here, I heard screaming. It was a man screaming. Another reason I don't like Lord Bum, he separated Artemis from the rest of her family.
Myself and my friends are going to do something that will keep you and your family as safe as possible.
Are you going to kill Lord Bush?
I don't know about that.
Good luck. Kill him.
Good luck. Kill him.
Hi, my name is Elijah, my pronouns are he, him, and I play the voice of Zachary Wilkos.
Hiya, I'm Cass. My pronouns are she, her, and I voice Liam Bardsley.
Hi, I'm Jess, he, she, they, and I voice Daniel Pritchard.
Hi, I'm Toast, pronouns she, they, and I play Adrian Edwards.
Alright, Adrian Edwards, we are picking up with you and Liam as we walk towards Mr. Keen's room. Last we left off, there was a little bit of conflict between our two lads. What to do with Adrian downing some mysterious liquid.
I stuck my tongue in it. I didn't down anything.
Got it. Okay. Stuck your tongue. Did a little taste test.
Little gecko, little like, ma'am.
Exactly. Got in the vial there, which peeved Liam greatly, but we're about to walk into Mr. Keen's room. You can see that there is...
Well, knock first.
There is a light underneath the door. But even before we can enter into Mr. Keen's room, there's somebody else in the hallway with us. At the far end of this hallway here on the first floor, you see Miss Virginia Colby.
No, I was afraid of that.
She is leaving the room that's second to last in this hallway, and she is heading towards the room at the end of the hall, but whenever she spots you, simultaneously standing in the hallway with her, she freezes, and you can see her face is completely blank. She's gauging what you are doing here and how you're reacting to her. And I would like to give you your one witness token for this hour.
Yeah.
Miss Colby is wearing a necklace that you do not recall seeing on her earlier in the evening over dinner.
Do I know whose room she's coming out of?
Give me a wisdom roll.
I feel like one would assume it's Mr. Flynn's, but I would love if it was some other woman's room.
Now, why is that?
I like lesbians. 8.
You can't quite... I'm basically going to give you the same information that you just gave me. I'm going to flip it back on you. You can assume that it's probably Mr. Flynn's room, but you don't actually have enough of a recollection about the room layout with all of the names and everything to know for 100% sure that it's Mr. Flynn's room. So she is giving you a kind of stony expression and waiting to see if you do anything.
Well, I am going to note in my head where that room is, and I want to check the book later if I can. But when he sees her, he pauses. And I think they both kind of try to gauge each other. And then he nods and says, "Good evening, Miss Colby."
"Mr. Edwards." And she just turns around and she walks back to the room at the end of the hall. Incidentally, you can still stop her if you want to, but the room that she's heading towards is the room that Zachary and Daniel entered earlier in the evening. It's the Sapphire room.
Okay. As she starts walking to her room, he's going to sort of impulsively say, Miss Colby?
Give me an influence roll to see if your history with each other is enough to stop her, to turn her around.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be so rude if she kept walking, though?
Yeah, but he deserves it. 12.
With just a moderate success on that, she's just going to say, "Good evening, Mr. Edwards," and continue to walk back to her room.
Then he's going to say, "Don't go out after midnight, by the way."
No, that's not enough. Oh no. You say, "Don't go out after midnight," and she does turn around.
Uh-oh.
And she says, "Mr. Edwards, I will thank you to mind your own business about what hours I keep in my private time. And you can certainly then keep your own business about who you accompany at 11 o'clock at night." And she glances up at Liam for a second, and then she turns around and walks back to her room and closes the door. She completely misinterpreted what you were implying.
Adrian shrugs. Okay.
Liam gives you a look. He's still a little bit miffed at you, though, but he's not going to say anything about that just yet, because he's curious, and then he remembers that he's mad at you, so he shakes his head, and...
Adrian, what he does say is, he kind of also sort of shrugs and shakes his head, but he says, "When we get to Mr. Keen's room, just let me do the talking, all right?"
"Oh, let you do the talking."
"Yes, I know historically it hasn't gone well, but I don't want to reveal certain details to him, all right?"
"You're showing a great deal of restraint, more than you did just scant seconds ago."
"I'm not going to continue having this conversation. We're already late."
"All right, well, you say what you want to say, and I'll say what I want to say." And then they walk in.
They knock. They
do knock it. Yeah, they do knock. Excuse me. And then they knock. Mr. Keen comes to... I was waiting for him to open the door. Mr. Keen comes to open the door and looks to make sure that we are unaccompanied, and then gestures us inside.
"Good evening, Mr. Keen. Apologies for being a little bit late."
Did you find anything of interest that was keeping you late?"
"I sure have some things to tell you." And he continues walking into the room.
He's gonna sit down and get his pen and notepad.
Adrian glances at Liam, but then he says, "Before we start, I'd like to put all our cards on the table, so to speak. Earlier, I was rather brusque with you. I admit that is because you put my friend Mr. Wilcox under scrutiny. I would like to continue being forthright with you, but I need to know that he will not be at risk from you."
"Your concern for your friend is admirable. I can only assume that you are of a similar mind to Mr. King in that the church might pose some threat to you, or your friend, rather. And what I will say is this: I can guarantee that if it so happens that Mr. Wilcox is not the threat to the house and the people therein, I will not submit anything to be published with his name in it that would put him at risk of discovery."
"All right. I mean, I told you already that he doesn't have anything to do with this, but okay." Is Mr. Keen sitting down?
He has moved to sit down.
Okay, Adrian paces a little and looks around and says, might I sit down as well?
Girl.
Feels weird standing.
"Please, Mr. Edwards, help yourself to the
all
chair."
right.
Liam also sits down.
All right, they pull up chairs, they sit down. "Earlier, we told you of our suspicions of the absent Lord Bush. Well, since then, we've broken into his room, what I believe to be his bedroom, and discovered his items of witchcraft and sorcery, magical components, books on the demonic, and I would say that's fairly good proof that the absent host is responsible for whatever strange things are going on in this house. And we have since also spoken to Mr. King. He has revealed to us that his entire family, in fact, is being essentially held captive here by this Lord Bush. And you should know, there is a small child who is being held in this home, against her will, and kept very ill.
Who is this child? To whom does she belong?
She is Mr. King's niece.
Ah, family then. Not.
Yes.
I see.
Just said family.
Just want to make sure I have everything down. And back up one moment. I have been all over this building, and I have not found a room such as the one you described. Where was this that you found?
Ground floor. It appears to be attached to Mr. King's own quarters.
How did you get in? That was a locked room.
I broke in.
A doctor, a poet, and a thief.
I try.
You are full of surprises, Mr. Edwards. But anything in the pursuit of knowledge, I suppose?
Yeah.
Yeah? I mean, I just found so much stuff. He doesn't say that. We did discover in Lord Bush's room a number of books on dark magics and the demonic. As far as we can tell from his journals, he appears to be attempting to create his own source of magic. And we do believe it's related to the baths.
And what of the people who have disappeared and who have then come back?
Well, I'm not positive. They are involved somehow, and he's doing something to them, but I'm not entirely sure to what end or entirely how he's doing it. But I know that he must be stopped.
He has them marked down, all of their names, the people who went missing and those who stayed on as staff. He's got a map of London in his study that's got all of their locations, their homes, marked out all across London, with lines leading from their homes back to this manor. Does he indeed? And Mr. Keene is writing furiously in his notes about this. Alright, so I believe that is sufficient evidence to... Could we get back into his room?
Not quite so easily.
You could break in again, though.
Perhaps. One issue, Mr. King did discover us on the way out, and he was not entirely pleased about it, so we would have to be very careful and find a slightly different way of getting into the room.
Can't you just break in again?
Not in the same way. I've broken my tools.
He knows you're lying.
I used magic.
So you saw Keen's expression change
He
slightly.
squinted at me, and I was like, ah!
He just glares at you slightly more. He squints at you slightly more, and that's enough to make you blurt that out.
Yeah.
At the beginning, you were like, Liam, let me do the talking. I'm not going to reveal everything.
I used magic!
He's deflecting off of certain people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I had a little spell handy, but the tool I used to use that spell is broken and I can't use the same spell, but we could perhaps still break into the room another way. And I have discovered Lord Bush isn't even here in the house. Mr. King seems to think he still might be capable of something, but the man's not here. It's possible we could do a little bit more than we first imagined.
Mr. Keene is writing furiously all of this. He's paused for a moment whenever you said it was a spell. So... the guests of the manor are now under threat from demonic powers and witchcraft, perhaps?
I believe so. Orchestrated by Lord Bush.
I see. He's furiously trying to put all of the pieces together in his mind. And you're here because you also practice magic? Is Lord Bush a rival of yours?
No, look, honestly, we ended up here by coincidence. But I myself... and, you know, Mr. Wilcox, are familiar with some aspects of magic, and it became very clear very quickly that something nefarious was about, and that innocent people were going to be subjected to something quite awful, and in fact, already have been. Believe it or not, I'm here out of the good of my heart.
Oh.
Sir. Well, not initially, but I am staying because of that.
I love him.
The good of my black, dripping, tar-like heart.
The good of my heart. Okay, not like initially, but like now it is.
On purpose.
Like, isn't that enough?
Your charity is overwhelming, Mr. Edwards.
Adrian's shaking his head.
I believe we do have enough information to know that it is paramount that we get the rest of the guests out of the house.
And the King family as well. Well, King Blythe.
Indeed. And you said earlier that midnight was the hour.
Something
that
occurs
things
at
would
midnight.
Fall apart. Yes, very good. We have very little time then, precious little. I have a little bit of information as well. I'm not entirely convinced of what you've said.
He squints.
That Lord Bush might not be in this manor. Even if you had been all over the house, I have found several locked doors. In fact, there's the one that you mentioned, the one adjoining Mr. King's room on the ground floor. So obviously you've been in that one. That one was locked. There is also a door locked here on the first floor, in the opposite wing from this one at the very end of the hall. And Adrian, you know that is Emily's room.
Yes, those are private quarters.
You've been in them?
Yes.
How did you get into that one?
Mr. King opened it for us. He was there. It's the young woman's room.
Ah, his niece.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, very well. Then the last two locked doors is there's another locked door on the second floor, and at the very top of the house, I hesitate to call it a locked door, but there is a doorway leading towards an empty wall where one might find an attic, but there's no doorway there.
Oh, wow.
A Perry again.
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit. Okay, a little bit of recognition sparks on Adrian's face, and he says, I do believe there is an attic. Mr. King and his brother-in-law, Mr. Blythe, have spoken of it. It must be disguised, locked by other magical means.
And do you have the spell by which to access this?
I don't think it's a good room to go into. They spoke of it. It sounded quite dangerous. Mr. King's brother-in-law has been afflicted by some sort of magical sickness, it would seem. Aged, strangely, and beyond his years, due to something in the attic. And I would not recommend trying to go in there.
But surely then, if that is the focal point for things going wrong in this house?
We don't know. All we know is that Mr. Blythe attempted to destroy them and nearly became destroyed himself. And if you'd like to report on this in your paper, I don't think you would do it very well. Were you destroyed by magic?
Damn, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I would almost think you were concerned for me, Mr. Edwards.
Well, yeah, I guess. I want to stay on good terms anyway.
Very good then. So, I have another piece of this potential puzzle that might illuminate some things, but I don't know how much. I'll share it with you in case you discovered anything in Lord Bush's study that might make this more clear to you. I spoke with Miss Cassell and Mr. Bale, the two other staff here that I hadn't spoken with before. Miss Cassell was formerly an artist, both a painter and a performance artist. And she would go dance in the halls and was saving up money to visit her grandmother. Now, Mr. Bale, on the other hand, was formerly a follower of Robert Owen and the Grand National Consolidated Trades Union. He was a draper. And so what I've gathered from this, and my discussions with some of the other visitors to the manor, those who returned to their homes, is that those who stayed on here had either inconsistent work or improper work, or what I can only describe as a lack of duty, while those who returned to their homes had pre-existing duties that were waiting for them.
Were they significant jobs? Something perhaps Lord Bush might want control over? Access to?
Well, that's the thing. Even though they were consistent jobs, they were not particularly influential, all of them. There was a dock worker, a barrister, a tailor, a politician, a charwoman, and a professor.
Perhaps this is just his very convoluted way of finding meaning in life.
Do you often struggle with that, Mr. Edwards?
God, you are...
He smiles a little bit.
This isn't about me. I'm trying to figure out a mystery, all right?
No, you're too right. He turns to Liam. Can you tell me more about the map that you saw with the lines connecting all of the different occupations and different residences? Well, I can't say as there was much pattern to it, just that it spread out all across London to various places.
Were they at the ley lines at this point? Did anybody know about ley lines?
That's a very good question. Ley lines, as the term specific ley lines did not exist at that time. But you know that Lord Bush is very interested in power.
Okay.
Magic.
Damn. I don't know how Adrian would,
Give me a wisdom roll.
contextualize that without understanding what quote-unquote ley lines are. Fuck me. Oh, wait. I have 1 luck.
You're welcome to use that whenever you want.
I'm going to use it now.
Okay.
Because what I did roll in total was a 7. And
Okay.
I want to be smart.
Okay.
Much better. 21.
21 is stellar. You're going to recall the line that you read in Lord Bush's annotations of The Magic Within, where he was talking about how his power is amplified when he's near a root.
Adrian's going to bring that up. He's going to say, we did find a magic book of Lord Bush's. He spoke of creating a substitute for magic, something that would allow him to create his own magic. And he spoke of something he called a root, which had something to do with amplifying the power of magic. And perhaps these people he's sending out into London, perhaps they are somehow connected to these roots? I'm not sure. It's a lot of information.
Well, the most important point is that we ought to evacuate everyone from the manor. Rain or no, I'm of the opinion that we should share information with people in the house.
I have spoken to 2 others, Mr. Underwood, Father Underwood, and Colonel Gurney. They are not aware of the magic involved in this evening's plot, but they are connected to Miss Campbell, and they would like to get her out of the manor.
And we have also brought Miss Crispin into our confidence as well. She does know that there is magic afoot, and foul play from Lord Bush. So her certainly we would be able to convince to leave with us. There's a few others, though, that I'm not quite certain how we'd convince them to leave unless we did fabricate something like
An emergency.
Do either of you know anyone else who's attending this evening?
Well, yes, but she doesn't like me. So I don't...
find that shocking.
You've got to stop. Sir, I am trying my best.
He's still smiling whenever you're saying that.
Oh, I know.
All right. I still think we could stand to investigate the attic if we had the means to get in there.
I do not think it's a good idea.
What does Liam think?
Mr. Keene, are you at all prepared to defend yourself if there's anything dangerous up there? Are you asking if I can fight?
You can't defend yourself against invisible forces.
So what would you suggest then?
Don't go in the attic. That is what I would suggest.
Then how will we find the truth of what's
Is it not
happening
more
here?
important to remove these people from this dangerous situation? That should be the priority. There is a child here.
You're correct that we should get everyone else out. I had planned to stay to investigate the truth of the matter.
And if you're turned into some sort of twisted spectre of yourself...
What's happening here, Mr. Edwards, is happening in many places on a larger scale. There's information that the public has been denied. So we might be able to save these people here, in this house, from what's happening. But how will we save the next victims, the next people who will ride into a similar situation without any information to arm themselves? What I'm concerned about is not only the people here, but the general public at large who deserves to have the information that they need to defend themselves against this kind of onslaught.
Well, I was rather hoping to discover this Lord Bush and put an end to him one way or the other. Go to that source.
Then what's our next step?
Beating him up?
No. Here,
Done that a few
now,
times.
in this house, what is our next step?
I feel as if we need to find some way to remove everyone. Or discover where Lord Bush is in fact hiding himself. There was a circle of salt around his bed in the bedroom. Nathaniel, or rather Mr. King, claims that Lord Bush is not currently here, but what if he is in fact hiding within the manor?
You or Mr. Wilkos, would you be able to investigate any of these other locked doors?
I believe we could get into these rooms one way or another.
Perhaps we should divide ourselves like so. If you manage to search these locked rooms, the ones I've mentioned, I might...
Sorry, Adrian is going to talk over him. I think we need to draw out this Lord Bush. Instead of sneaking around It's drawing things out too long. We need to find this fellow, and I'm not quite sure.
I thought you said he wasn't here.
Well, and then I also just said, well, if he is actually here, if we draw him out, get him to return to the house one way or another.
Now you're talking, Mr. Edwards.
Okay, all right. We need a bit more action.
That could work. If we draw Lord Bush here, then we would be able to break this thing wide open. We would be able to find out how it is that he operates and prevent this from happening to other people.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Find him, shake him about, learn his secrets, and stop him.
Yes. This could work.
We still have to operate somewhat delicately. He holds some sort of power over Mr. King's family. The young girl is sick. He's somehow using a concoction on her that keeps them tied to him.
Then perhaps what we could do next is I could speak with some of the other guests to inform them of the danger that they're in, and you could seek out these locked rooms and create a fuss to draw Lord Bush here.
I'd like to.
So I shall try to speak with people, prepare them to, what shall we say, should they stay in their rooms or should we get them prepared to evacuate the building?
If they're coming out, they'll need to be out before midnight because something, as far as I can tell, terrible is going to happen.
I can start on this floor, so in the room next to me, Miss Osmond will be staying. In the room next to that is Mr. Flynn, and then next to him is Miss Colby. And then on the opposite side, that was the locked room, so that would have been the niece. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know exactly who's in the room next to her, but next to that room would be Miss Audley's room, and then, as you said, Miss Crispin is already in the know. So there's those people on this level. I can try to... Let's give them a signal, shall we? At which point we shall evacuate them.
Also, does his description of the hallway give me any indication what room Miss Colby was coming out of?
She was coming out of Mr. Flynn's room.
Damn. Okay. I will say it seems Miss Osmond and Miss Audley and, in fact, Miss Chumley all seem rather fond of each other. If you can convince one of them, you might be able to convince the rest of them.
He notes that down in his journal.
Miss Colby, I'm not sure will be so easy to convince. She's the one who doesn't like me. She might like you.
Perhaps we can find something to bond over.
That... God.
I jest. I apologize, Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sure.
You have surprised me this evening. I was not expecting to find an ally in you, and...
No one ever does.
Your observations have actually been most useful. I believe with this, we might be able to salvage this evening from ruin. And then you and Mr. Bardsley, that you will investigate to see the locked room on the second floor.
Where was this second floor room located?
The door is pointing inward on the landing on the second floor.
We will check that, and I have just recalled Mr. Flynn seems rather keen, no pun intended, to ingratiate himself with our Lord Bush. He seems to admire the fellow and his hunting pastime. He might be a difficult one.
Again, very useful information, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you.
Perhaps I will start with Miss Colby.
I hope that's fun for you.
And then we still haven't settled on a signal. What should be the signal that everyone should try to make their escape?
Well, this is an incredibly large manor. The stairwell that leads to the different floors does have impressive acoustics, however. Perhaps letting out some sort of signal there would alert everyone. Could just be a whistle, a clap, a song.
We should avoid doing the knocking, though, since we've already encountered that in the household. But...
Oh, Mr. Keen, do you believe in ghosts?
Mr. Keen.
Mr. Keen.
Yes, I do.
There are ghosts present.
Are they working against us?
It's unclear. Some, as far as I can tell, are neutral presences, perhaps tied to the house in some way. There does seem to be one stronger presence that is perhaps attached to the King family, attempting to protect them. I don't know how much that might work against us or not, but it would just be prudent to keep your eyes out.
What should I watch out for?
Lots of green. Green stainings, green imagery, the colour.
Very good. So then the signal will be a whistle.
Sure.
Then I shall get to work informing the others on this floor and see how many I can speak to before 12, and we will endeavor to get everyone out before 12.
Adrian checks his watch. He assumes he has a pocket watch.
Yes, the half-hour chime goes off.
Well, we've rather got our work cut out for us.
Indeed. And, good luck as you investigate.
Thank you. You as well. Do be careful.
I will.
If you do speak to Miss Colby, you ought to bring up her performance in Twelfth Night. I believe that might ingratiate you to her.
I will do so, Mr. Edwards. Thank you for sharing information freely.
Hey, I should go up too.
For sharing the information, you go up 1, and then for
getting made fun of,
accepting your ribbing, you will go up another. Since you had previously been guarded, that brings you to interested. Okay, Liam and Adrian leave Mr. Keen's room. Liam is paused for a moment. He says, I think it was right that you shared the information you did. I think you did a good job looking out for Zachary as well. He says that in a low tone.
Thank you.
And now we will cut back with Daniel and Zachary and Dorothea as you have left Emily's room. Dorothea does not follow you immediately. She's standing there and she looks deep in thought.
I think they were walking and Daniel is talking with Zachary and he's like, I'm most interested in this Artemis puzzle, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And then he notices Dorothy isn't keeping pace and then he turns around and looks at her.
Zachary also pauses.
Miss Crispin?
Ah, yes. Gentlemen, I've been having a think. Mr. Pritchard, do you still have... Daniel, do you still have the Book of Spells?
Should be in Zachary's room still.
Well, firstly, I should apologize, Mr. Wilkos, for my reaction earlier whenever you cast your spell with the light. Even as much as we've been talking about it, it's almost like I couldn't quite perceive what I was seeing. But it is real, everything that we've studied and everything about the spells in the book. And Daniel, you said that anyone can cast spells. Didn't you? With a bit of practice, yes?
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I don't want to face off against Lord Bush unarmed. And if it's true that anyone can learn this, I don't see why I shouldn't try my hand at it.
She has a point. Though I would caution you. Knowing these sorts of things puts your life in danger.
I think it might help, at least in this case, whatever comes to follow.
Then I suppose we should prepare a few things.
It might take me a moment, but if the two of you go to uncover this puzzle, whatever happens to be with the Artemis statue, I think I'll take the book to my room to study it, and perhaps, maybe, I can prepare something. You'll know where to find me. I'll be in my quarters, and hopefully before the end of the evening, I'll have something of use. I'll be able to... And she looks at her hands, and she's excited and a little bit nervous. And then she folds her hands in front of her dress again. I'll have something that can be properly of use to us.
Well, I suppose the instructions are there. He looks at Zachary and he says, it was easy for me and Adrian to prepare a few things, I suppose. We used the book.
Zachary is not very keen on this. He's frowning and he's looking at Daniel and he's looking at Miss Crispin. I don't know if you know what you're signing up for when doing this. Also, it takes a bit of practice. I don't know if you can learn it all in one night.
I have to try.
It might be useful to prepare a few simple spells.
Are you sure there isn't anything more immediate and useful you could be doing?
Do you have any suggestions?
I'm afraid I don't.
Well, very good then. And if I can't manage it, then there's nothing lost except time. And...
Or the book itself.
What do you mean?
I don't know you, Miss Crispin. I don't know what you will do with the book.
Rude.
Daniel turns to Zachary, like, super offended.
It isn't so far-fetched. She could turn it into the church. I don't know her. Isn't it only logical that I would want to keep everybody safe?
I don't know how you think you'll be keeping us safe by preventing me from being able to defend myself.
It isn't that I don't want you to defend yourself, Miss Crispin. But you have to understand, if I trust you with this, I'm trusting you with something precious, something that is a part of myself.
More people do magic than you, Zachary.
I know that. As casual as we have been, as cavalier as we have been with it, that doesn't mean there isn't still danger involved, and that doesn't mean we could all just be turned in immediately. Do you remember the Manus?
I remember him quite well. I didn't sell my memories of that adventure.
Everybody is getting cranky.
It's the sleepy mechanic at work.
Mm-hmm.
We need a snack and a good rest.
Fine. I'm trusting you.
I think you'll find that it's worthwhile, Mr. Wilkos.
I've no doubt you've got the brain. I just hope you have the heart.
Dorothea looks to Daniel to get a read on him.
He had glared for a moment at Zachary, then he turns back to her and he says, I trust you have both.
Thank you, Daniel. Do you have any suggestions about what might be most useful for me to practice?
Well, a very useful one that doesn't require any ingredients would be deflect. It will block a magical attack. I assume a bush would be someone to attack us with magic. Maybe not physically. So I think that would be useful. All you would have to do is focus your intent and practice it.
I feel the greatest defense is a good offense. So perhaps lightning bolt will be more to your liking since you seem more gun-ho about actually attacking.
But what if something as simple as lightning bolt, I feel as though someone like Bush could easily deflect that?
Perhaps.
I think it would be more useful if he was attacking us. We need to assume he's going to come at us with supreme magical power.
You can never underestimate, 1, someone's intention, and 2, how a tool is used. Magic is just a tool, and if she finds the right opening, she could do some serious damage. It all depends on her and her quick-witted mind.
That's perfect. Okay, Eli, I want you to call odds or evens.
Evens.
It's odds. Okay.
Deflect.
So, she's looking between the two of you, and she says, I think I'll study deflect. I'm more interested in protecting myself and each other, rather than causing anyone any immediate harm right off the bat, although I do believe that we should stop Lord Bush. I think I agree with Daniel. I'll study deflect.
Zachary nods. Good luck.
And to you as well.
Thank you.
I would like the two of you to please now roll with a wisdom.
That was a critical fail. 1.
Oh no, beans.
Wow, okay. 8.
Daniel, as you all are walking down the hallway, you can hear a bit of noise. It is coming from upstairs. You hear chatting, but you can't tell what people are saying.
Can I determine if it's like testosterone-affected voices or no?
It is not.
Okay.
In fact, I'll even tell you that you might be able to hear Rosamund and Audley.
Pretty good with an 8.
But you can't hear what's being said. There is also a third voice, and you can't determine who that is.
What's the mood?
Conversational.
Okay. I don't feel like he cares to look into that. He's thinking they're probably talking about the ribbon game or other things that they might talk about.
Okay, so are you going to continue as usual on your trek down to the ground floor?
Yeah, I think he sees it as so unimportant. I'm interested as a player, like why you pointed that out to me. But Daniel, I think realistically, would not find that very important at all and would not even mention it to Zach and would just continue down to the Artemis statue.
Then Zach is going to be fully taken by surprise. Another voice calls out from the top of the stair as you are getting close, and you realize that it is one of the staff. And it's one of the ladies whose name you do not know. Ah, gentlemen, the time is fast approaching for everyone to return to your rooms. Would you like me to escort you there?
No, I think we'll find our way just fine, thank you.
Excellent. Well, your rooms are here, up on the next floor up, I believe?
I have to go for a smoke. I have to walk out into the front lawn.
Very good. I'll be checking on you again later to make sure that you've returned to your room safely and have everything that you need for the evening.
Of course, thank you.
And now you may pass down to the ground floor, keeping in mind that now somebody's going to have their eye on you to make sure you go back to your rooms at 12 o'clock.
All right, so I think Daniel is just beelining it for the dining room. Or rather, he's also kind of being aware of perhaps the staff. He's kind of conflicted on how to treat the staff because in some way they're kind of not fully there, so he might do something weird and they'll just like nod at him. But in another way, they're kind of controlled by Bush, and Bush has an agenda, and maybe they don't want him in certain rooms at certain times, especially when it's getting later now.
Mm-hmm.
What time is it now? Like 10:30?
No, it's 11.
It's 11.
About, I'm going to say this roughly parallels whenever Liam and Adrian would be leaving their room, but not exactly. So this is about 11:30.
11:30?
Yep. Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So we only got 30. We shouldn't have played that fucking ribbon game. All right.
You said you were going towards the dining room, yes?
Yeah. And he's also his ears are up like a hair. Like he is he's turning his ears, listening for anyone he might run into. He doesn't really want to be seen doing this. He wants to be as least impactful as possible.
Roll me a d20, both of you. And you can have advantage.
Can I add anything?
Wisdom?
That's a 14 with advantage.
17.
That's perfect. The two of you, as you come to the ground floor, you're actually able to duck around the corner as Nathaniel is coming out of his room with a new brooch. So you were able to avoid being seen by him and by the new brooch that he is wearing. So you're able to make it into the dining room without incident. Zachary, you feel a little strange. You feel like a little bit tight in your chest once you've come to the ground floor. And we can double back to that in a minute. It's slight enough at this moment that I think you would just chalk it up to nerves, but you do feel a little bit of tightness in your chest. So, you make it into the dining room. What are you looking for?
The Artemis statue?
Yes, the Artemis statue is near one of the doorways, the one that leads into the parlor. And she, as I mentioned before, the statue has been turned facing the statue of a boar on the opposite pedestal.
How heavy is it? How big is the statue? Can we pick it up?
It's about slightly taller than elbow to fingertip, length of a forearm, so you should be able to pick it up.
Daniel reaches for it, and his hands go on it, and then he realizes as he's about to pick it up, he takes his hands off, and he looks at Zach, and he says, "Is there anything magical about this?"
Can I roll for perception?
Yeah, do your arcana.
19.
You don't sense anything coming off of the statue.
It's safe, he says, and his attention is turned to the boar she's pointing to instead.
You mind if I pick her up?
Be careful, but I don't sense any magic coming off of her. Try and inspect the bottom if you can.
All right. He picks up the statue and he tries to turn it to look at the bottom.
Nothing there. There's no runes or anything.
Hmm.
What direction are you pointing? Like facing towards the wall and the door, or are you facing into the dining room?
I mean, I'm facing towards the statue.
Okay, so that's in the direction of the door. Okay.
Why is it? Is there like a laser coming out of her like a laser pointer coming out of her arrow and like, like
no,
it's changing what's
nah, you're good. Don't worry
the
about it.
environment depending on what she's pointing at. All right,
Don't worry about it.
She's
Okay.
hunting the boar.
Not anymore. She's not. He picks her up and starts taking her to the parlor.
Well,
You're free to do so.
Did something happen when I put it in the empty space?
Nope.
Nothing happened.
Nope.
it's just symbolic, I guess.
He like turns her, points her at all the different statues. Nothing happens.
Nope.
Well, fuck me, he says.
Zachary, I'm just gonna have him detect magic on the boar.
Okay.
22.
You don't sense anything from the statue of the boar. From what you can tell, this might be purely a decorative choice of Lord Bush. But that tightness in your chest feels a little bit stronger, and at this point, you begin to realize that that sensation is permeating the room, and in fact is permeating the entire floor. And I'm going to use a combination of that roll you just did with the Arcana, plus
Witness
one of
token.
your witness tokens.
Nice.
Yes. It's a sensation like air escaping through a very narrow crevice, and it draws you to the windows. Outside, the storm still rages on, but you realize that the house is locking up from the outside.
How do you mean locking up? How does he realize that it's locking up?
You feel the sensation of casting a protective ward, except rather than keeping anything from the outside from coming in, it's keeping everything inside from getting out.
He becomes very aware of this, and he turns to Daniel, and he pretty much says that in alarm.
Maybe I should cover that smoke. Maybe we need to get everyone out of here right now.
I don't think it matters. I think it's too late just now.
You think, or you know?
I don't. We could try going out right now, but we don't want to cause a panic. Or get trapped out there.
Well, Magic Man, what do you suggest?
If it's a ward, there has to be something channeling it. Usually mine are buried in the yards. We could try looking for something and destroy it. Zachary looks at the boar. Where was the boar pointed at?
The boar was pointed at the Artemis statue.
So they were both looking at each other.
They were looking at each other.
Hunter and hunted.
Not necessarily. Sometimes boars can kill people.
You become very acutely aware that there's many boar heads in this room staring down at you right at this moment. Daniel, do you turn to look at the rest of the boars?
Yeah, I guess he's looking where Zach is looking, because he doesn't know what to do.
Near these boars, over the mantelpiece, sort of centered amongst them, there is the large portrait that presided over dinner earlier that evening. And it's at this point that you realize you recognize the hunter that is sitting in the saddle of the horse in the painting. That is why the face of the man was familiar, who appeared whenever you touched Nathaniel's brooch. That is, as you suspected, Lord Bush.
Hang on a moment. He points at the portrait. I saw this man.
When? How?
Right, shit, I didn't tell anyone this. You weren't there. During the ribbon game, I was able to take off an article of clothing of someone else, and so naturally, I removed Nathaniel's brooch.
Oh.
When I touched it, I saw a man. As clear as if he was in the room with us.
Not Nathaniel?
No. He points at the portrait. That man.
Zachary is speechless. He doesn't quite know what to make of it. He instead turns his archaic attention towards the painting itself. 10.
You don't sense anything coming from the painting.
I think, if I had to guess, what with this large painting, I think the man I saw was Lord Bush. He was shorter than I imagined.
Did he say anything?
Yes. He said, well, I've rather got egg on my face, haven't I?
Zachary blanks. Are you sure?
Yes, that's exactly what he said. How could I forget something like that?
Good point.
That's all he said, too. Then he disappeared.
He disappeared?
The brooch broke, in my hand.
He cracked it himself. He severed the connection.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, well, I'm not sure how that's relevant in our situation right now as the house is locking up, but it's good to know the face of our enemy.
He kind of gestures toward the portrait. Is there anything magical around here?
I wish.
Is the portrait close enough to the ground where he can, try to lift it and look at the back of the frame or something?
It's over the mantelpiece. I would say you would have to track down, a step stool in order to
Well,
get
we're in the
over
dining
it.
room, right? Bunch of chairs?
Yeah, you
Alright.
could do that.
He grabs a chair.
Roll me a d20 because it's quite heavy. This is an enormous, showing off
Not the
wealth
chair, the
kind of
painting.
painting. Yeah, you can lift the chair, but I assume you said you were lifting up the edge of the painting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so he grabs a chair and he pulls it, without asking for permission from Zach, pulls it over to the fireplace, sticks it down, and then he steps on it, and he says, hold me, just in case. Hold the chair.
Okay.
Then he tries to lift it up. It's a 9.
You can lift it maybe 4 inches away from the wall. You don't lift it up off of the wall, but you can get it close enough so that you can kind of peek under it, and it's still fairly shadowed underneath, but you don't see any sort of writing or hidden letters or messages or secret passageways or anything like that behind it.
Cranes looking behind it.
Anything?
Not that I can see.
Zachary produces light for him.
That's nice, and that's something that you can do freely, right?
Yeah, it's one of my cantrips.
With the light, that actually does give Daniel just enough to read. There's writing up in the very top corner on the back of the frame. You have to kind of twist your body around, and your arms are straining to keep this painting lifted up from against the wall, but you can read it. And it says, "Me and my boys."
It does not.
It does. It does. It has, you'll recall it has all of those white hunting dogs tearing a boar to smithereens on the front. And it says, "Me and my boys."
Oh, hang on. I see something. It's
Well?
squinting.
What's it say?
Me
Uh-huh.
and
And?
my boys?
Get down from the chair, please.
He puts the frame back and then he gets down off the chair.
Him and his hunting dogs. Hunting boars, and we have nothing else, he says, shrugging and looking around hopelessly. Fuck.
Both of you please roll me a d20.
Add anything?
Wisdom.
22.
Unnatural 20.
So you hear footsteps approaching the dining hall before the door opens, and the same staff who had approached you in the hallway before, she's standing and
No,
she says,
if he hears the footsteps, he's going to be, shit, get onto the table, go.
Oh, ooh,
Zachary
Ooh.
allows himself to be pulled along and even replaces the chair before going under the table.
That's incredible.
Do we have to roll for that?
Yeah, you give me a d20 roll. I am going to roll for this person.
Oh,
Oh no.
Oh no.
I got a 2.
I got a 19. Does that help? Can I pull Zachary along or something?
Here's how we're going to play it. The staff got a 14. And so what's going to happen is that Daniel is already fully hidden under the table. Zachary is still scuttling under there. And that is when the staff comes in and she stands placidly and says, "Ah, Mr. Wilkos, have you finished your smoke?"
Yes. Definitely.
Wonderful.
Stands
Are you ready to adjourn to your room?
How much more time do I have?
We're requesting that everyone get in their rooms before 12 o'clock. Is there anything you need? Are you hungry? I can bring something up to your room.
Ah, yes. I am feeling a bit peckish. I'll meet you up at my room, but could you bring me a bit of bread and milk, please?
Certainly. Bread and milk. And where has your companion, Mr. Verdi, gone?
He already retired to his room. He was feeling tired.
I didn't see him.
Perhaps he used a different stairwell.
Ah, of course. Silly me. Shall I bring some food for him as well?
He didn't say. I think just me.
Very good.
I'll be retiring now, thank you.
Excellent. She walks away. She closes the door.
He breathes.
So does Daniel.
You've no sooner let out your breath than you hear the echoing sound of distant knocking from far away in the house.
Daniel looks at Zach, meets his eyes, like, you hear that?
Zachary nods.
And then a raspy, guttural scream. And then silence.
Liked what you heard? Let us know by using hashtag #DandiesInDanger over on our Twitter, Insta, Tumblr, and TikTok in the listed links below. We'd love to hear any and all comments, questions, and theories as to where the story might be headed. Want to support us and our lads' adventures more directly? Then please consider clicking on the link and becoming a patron today. For just $1, you can gain access to our longer, uncensored outtakes and blooper reels. For $5, you can have access to exclusive stickers, in-world letters written by and for the lads, poetry by Adrian and Daniel, and original music from the show composed and scored by Chess Albanese. Can't afford to support directly? No problem. Podcasts survive by word of mouth, so if you like what you heard, tell your friends, family, and local graveyard ghosts all about these exciting tales. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Dandies in Danger is written and voiced by Elijah Bergateris as Zachary Wilkos. Cass as Liam Bardsley, Chess Albanese as Daniel Pritchard, and Toast as Adrian Edwards. It is edited by Toast. Original score and music composed by Chess Albanese. It is produced by Dandies team, and made possible by listeners like you.